Piertotum Locomotor. Piertotum Locomotor is one of the most memorable defensive spells in the Harry Potter series, even though it only makes its grand appearance in Deathly Hallows Part 2. In the film, Professor McGonagall steps forward, points her wand at the stone statues and suits of armor lining the castle, and calls out the incantation. Instantly, dozens of stone guardians spring to life, stomping forward to defend Hogwarts. McGonagall's line, "I've always wanted to use that spell," turned it into one of the most iconic moments of the entire movie. The magic itself is a form of advanced animation charm, similar in nature to the enchantments that power the moving staircases, or the bewitched suits of armor seen earlier in the series. The spell gives life-like mobility to inanimate objects, but under the caster's control and with a specific purpose. In this case, the defenders of Hogwarts act as an auxiliary army, adding sheer numbers to the castle's resistance. In the Deathly Hallows novel, however, the defense of Hogwarts looks very different. McGonagall does indeed animate statues and suits of armor, but Rowling never provides the name of an incantation. The description simply tells us that teachers like McGonagall, Flitwick, and Sprout are casting spells to prepare the castle, and one of McGonagall's contributions is bringing the statues to life. The filmmakers chose to coin a specific Latin-style spell, Piertotum Locomotor, to dramatize the moment and give it cinematic weight. This creative addition became instantly canon in the minds of many fans. The invented incantation fits seamlessly into the linguistic style of Rowling's spells, drawing from Latin roots that mean roughly move the whole army. While the book's description leaves the magic more mysterious, the movie immortalized the spell name and cemented it as part of Hogwarts' legendary defense. Ultimately, Piertotum Locomotor bridges the gap between book and film, an unnamed piece of magic expanded for cinematic flair, but still faithful to McGonagall's role as one of Hogwarts' fiercest protectors. Protego Maxima. Protego Maxima is the first major defensive spell we actually hear named in Deathly Hallows Part 2. In the movie, Professor Flitwick leads the professors and order members in casting the spell, raising their wands together to form the massive glowing shield that encases Hogwarts. The effect is dramatic. Arcs of golden magic connect in the sky, forming a massive dome over the castle. It looks like a magical force field, sealing the school against Voldemort's army. Now, in terms of canon, the Protego family of spells is normally about shielding. A basic Protego blocks minor jinxes or hexes, and more advanced versions can stop stronger curses. But Protego Maxima is an extreme upgrade. The idea is that it expands the protective barrier on a massive scale, covering not just one person but an entire location. That's why in the movie it takes multiple skilled witches and wizards casting together to sustain it. There's an important detail here. Protego Maxima doesn't exist in the books. J.K. Rowling never names this spell in the text. The filmmakers invented it specifically to make the protections around Hogwarts feel more concrete and cinematic. In the novel, the defenses are described in more general terms. Layers of enchantments woven by the professors, the Order of the Phoenix, and even Ministry members who side with Harry. The movie chose to give those layers a recognizable name and a striking visual. The strength of this spell in the film is impressive, but not absolute. Voldemort himself is able to shatter the barrier with a blast of green fire from the Elder Wand. That moment makes clear just how much raw power he commands. Even the most advanced defensive magic created by a group of Hogwarts' best professors can't withstand the Elder Wand forever. So while Protego Maxima is technically movie only, it captures the spirit of the book's defenses, an enormous effort to shield the castle with everything the defenders had. Fianto Duri. Fianto Duri is the second protective incantation spoken during the defense of Hogwarts in Deathly Hallows Part 2. In the movie, we can hear it chanted right after Protego Maxima, as the professors reinforce the shimmering barrier above the castle. The spell is cast in unison by multiple witches and wizards, adding more strength and durability to the magical shield. Visually, the protective dome glows brighter, as if layers of power are being stacked on top of each other. Here's the important thing. Fianto Duri is not part of J.K. Rowling's book canon. It doesn't appear in the novels, and it's never mentioned in Pottermore or any official expansions. Like Protego Maxima, this incantation was invented by the filmmakers to give cinematic weight to the battle preparations. The Latin roots are telling though. Fiant means let it be made, and Duri suggests lasting or hard. So the idea is essentially make it endure. That lines up with how the movie uses it, as an enchantment to keep the shield intact for longer. In practice, the spell acts as a kind of reinforcement charm. While Protego Maxima creates the initial barrier, Fianto Duri seems to strengthen it, suggesting it's not a standalone shield, but a spell meant to fortify other protections. This fits the layering of enchantments described in the books, where multiple charms and counter curses are combined to make Hogwarts as resistant as possible. Ultimately, just like Protego Maxima, Fianto Duri doesn't hold against Voldemort. His use of the Elder Wand, channeled through overwhelming force, tears through the barrier despite these reinforcements. But in the movie, this layering of spells gives the sense that Hogwarts wasn't left vulnerable. Its defenders used every possible tool, even ones the audience hadn't seen before. Repello Inimicum. Repello Inimicum is the third incantation we hear during the protective sequence in Deathly Hallows Part 2. In the movie, it's spoken immediately after Protego Maxima and Fianto Duri, forming the final layer of the shimmering dome around Hogwarts. On screen, the spell appears to lock the barrier into place, giving the audience the impression that all defenses are now complete. Unlike standard defensive charms, Repello Inimicum does exist in the larger Harry Potter canon. It isn't directly shown in the main books, but it appears in extended materials and is listed in Pottermore as a legitimate repelling spell. Its literal translation is repel the enemy, which fits perfectly with how the film uses it. In broader lore, Repello Inimicum is a general protective charm designed to ward off intruders, similar to the protective enchantments placed around the Burrow or even Grimmauld Place. The movie, however, adapts it for cinematic effect. Instead of being subtle or invisible as protective charms usually are described in the books, Repello Inimicum becomes a massive visible dome of light covering the castle and its grounds. This visual spectacle makes the defenses feel tangible and dramatic, raising the stakes before Voldemort's forces arrive. In practice, the spell doesn't last long. When Voldemort unleashes his first barrage against the barrier, cracks spread across the dome, and soon after it shatters completely. This isn't necessarily a failure of the spell itself, rather it shows how the Elder Wand's destructive force could overwhelm even layered magical defenses. So, while Repello Inimicum has roots in official lore, its film portrayal is far more theatrical. In the books, protections around Hogwarts are described as invisible enchantments layered by multiple teachers. In the movie, this single incantation becomes the final cinematic flourish that completes the shield. How Voldemort destroyed the protective spells. When Voldemort finally arrived at Hogwarts, the protective enchantments did not simply vanish. They were forcefully shattered. In the book, Rowling describes him sending a surge of dark magic against the barrier. The shield trembled but held, requiring repeated strikes from the Dark Lord himself. It was raw magical power, the kind only he could summon, that finally cracked the defenses. The barrier dissolved in showers of sparks, clearing the way for his army. In the film adaptation, the destruction is made far more visual and dramatic. Voldemort raises his wand and unleashes a massive wave of green energy, hammering against the golden dome of light that surrounds the castle. The shield fractures slowly, spiderwebbing with cracks until it bursts apart in a cascade of magical fire. The scene is meant to showcase his overwhelming strength, turning an invisible ward from the books into a cinematic spectacle. Both versions emphasize that no ordinary wizard could have broken through. These enchantments, layered by some of the greatest witches and wizards of the age, required nothing less than Voldemort's fury to destroy. And once the defenses fell, the Battle of Hogwarts truly began. Book versus movie differences. When comparing the protections of Hogwarts and Deathly Hallows, the gap between the book and the films becomes clear. In the novel, Rowling never names specific incantations. Instead, the defenses are portrayed as vast layers of enchantments woven by the professors and members of the Order. The focus is on the teamwork and centuries of magic bound into the castle itself. The effect is more subtle, an invisible shield trembling under the force of Voldemort's attack. The film adaptation takes a different approach, adding drama by naming three powerful spells: Protego Maxima, Fianto Duri, and Repello Inimicum. These visual effects, arches of light covering into a dome, give audiences a clear sense of Hogwarts being sealed. Both versions agree on one important detail. Piertotum Locomotor, McGonagall's spell animating the statues, is central to the castle's defense. The contrast shows how the book emphasizes tradition and subtle power, while the movie opts for spectacle.